So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We'll start the session tonight with the recitation of the Holy Quran. I'll request Regional Qaid Sahib, Virginia, to please come recite a few verses of the Holy Quran with translation. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما العلي العظيم. In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Allah, there is no God save Him, the living, the self-subsisting, and all-sustaining. Slumber seizes Him not, nor sleep. To Him belongs whatsoever is in the heavens and whatsoever is in the earth. Who is He that dare intercede with Him save by His permission? He knows what is before them and what is behind them, and they encompass nothing of His knowledge except what He pleases. His knowledge extends over the heavens and the earth, and the care of them wearies Him not, and He is the High, the Great. Now I'll request respected Naib Sadr Hibiq Bal Sahib to please come and deliver his welcome remarks.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I know many of you, mashallah, are here from various parts, and mashallah, the turnout is very nice, especially on a day like this. So jazakallah to all of you for being here, taking some time out on a weekday. And especially jazakallah to Murabbi Sahib for taking time out of his hectic week. In my capacity as a PA secretary, I was with Murabbi Sahib the last couple of days, and I saw how busy his schedule is, and it's continued to be this whole week. So we appreciate you taking the time, Murabbi Sahib, to join us this evening and talking to Khuddam. Just by way of introduction, Murabbi Sahib, for those of you who don't know, we have some guests here as well. So welcome to all of our guests, of the community. By way of introduction, our Imam of Argentina is visiting us this evening. He is the first missionary that was sent to the country of Argentina to establish a mission there. So you can just imagine, sort of the pressure and how much of a challenge that would be. But then as I've gotten a preview and listened to Murabbi Sahib a little bit, we'll hear from him directly about how he's overcome that challenge and has been a loyal and humble servant of Khilafat. And that's sort of, been his guide throughout this whole process. So we'll take, guidance from Murabbi Sahib and as well as some of these anecdotes that we can all learn from as Khuddam, as servants of this Jamaat. Murabbi Sahib will provide, I think, very faith-inspiring stories that you'll all enjoy. I know that, dinner is also downstairs. Some of us are pretty hungry, but, this opportunity to meet with, Murabbi, a guest of ours from so far, comes very infrequent. So, taking this opportunity and asking questions and talking with Murabbi Sahib is something that we will all enjoy. I don't want to take any more time than that. I just, we hope to hear from Murabbi Sahib and we pray that, the mission that you've undertaken down in Argentina is successful. Our prayers are with you. I know the prayers of Hazrat and Masih are also with you. And, we're all, we're all hoping that, that Jamaat grows to such a level that we can all visit, a different part of the world. We can sort of see right in front of our eyes, what Hazrat Masih mentioned actually a couple of weeks ago, or even maybe last weekend when he talked, or 2 weeks ago, and during the khutbah on the martyrs of Burkina Faso, where he mentioned that, these enemies of Islam are trying to, take Islam away from us or take Ahmadiyya to get rid of Ahmadiyya from the world, but it's only going to spread. And we can see that right in front of our eyes with the mission that's established in Argentina and other parts of South America. So, mashallah, that work is ongoing. So without further ado, I will, take off the stage. And again, on behalf of Majlis Khuddam Ahmadiyya and respected Sadr Sahib, Madil Abdullah Sahib, we thank you for being here tonight and talking to the Khuddam.
So I know everybody's now eager to hear from Murabbi Marwan Sahib, who's joined us. So Murabbi Sahib, we'll keep it a bit more conversational style. And what I'll do is I'll try to, pose some questions to you, and we'll try to see, you can give us some answers. And then at the end, also give us, anything that you would like to share towards the end. So we'll start off with a question that if you can briefly share about your childhood, where did you grow up? And where and how did you end up going to Jamia?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mentally, I was expecting a harder question. I was expecting the first question would be Maradona or Messi. So, in this sense, I was born in Germany. So that's why I apologize also for my German accent. And also I might in future as well during the conversation bring some Spanish words in. And then I joined after my graduation Jamia UK in 2009. And I completed my Jamia course 2016, and I've been posted in Argentina now for the last 6 years. So that's the background.
Okay, Jazakallah. No, that's nice. I didn't know about your Germany background, so that's good to know. And I know we have one French supporter here somewhere. I think Asif Saud we're there. Still not happy about that final fight. So Murabbi Sahib, next thing I wanted to just hear that, your experiences in Jamia. I know, mashallah, you had the blessed opportunity to be in Jamia close to Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. If you can share some thoughts on that. And also for the audience, we that you're mashallah in a Hafiz-e-Quran. How was that journey? And how did you overcome that challenge of doing hifz and in Jamia?
Yeah, I think looking back from me, I think the same is from Murabbi Sahib. I think for us, Jamia was a golden period. In that sense that you could give 100% concentration on your own spiritual growth and development. So you had the whole environment. So to just have an idea, you start obviously the day with the prayers, with Fajr, Tahajjud, and then whole day you have the environment where you're reading the Holy Quran, Hadith, the books of Promised Messiah, ﷺ. So on one side you have all these teachings in theory, and on the other side you have the all you're living, basically it's a constant itkaf, right? So the Jamia is a mahal where you're cut off from the worldly affairs. So I really enjoyed it. But I think for me, the hardest part during Jamia was not the studies or the curriculum itself. I mean, I think if you even compare, there are also other Muslim scholars who are maybe Hafiz or even they know ahadith by heart, by memory. I think the hardest challenge for me was the jihad bin nafs, to apply what you read and what you study on your own person in first hand. So, for example, you read the verses of Holy Quran, doing patience, fighting against your emotions, your anger. And to just have an idea, I mean, all of us, we love to be free, independent, especially as teenagers. So I remember in Jamia times, it used to be like we would have certain timings for breakfast from 7:15 to 7:45, and then the canteen would be closed. Or dinner you would have from 7:15 to 8 o'clock, and on the menu, let's say it's dal, so you don't have any other choice than accepting it. So that was really hard, in this sense. Also, like we would share rooms. So it would be like constant ijtima mahal. I mean, for 1-2 nights is nice, it's fun spending time together in our mosque. But imagine you are sharing your room with 8 people, and you want to sleep, the other one wants to study. He's coming late on, making noise. He's interrupting your sleep. So it's a whole process, where you have to find, and you have to find also the hikmat, how to overcome these relations. Then obviously there are always conflicts between teachers, students, so it's something natural. So I think that was the harder side. But I think it was very necessary to, before going out and preaching to others, that you go through this period yourself. And this, I think myself as well, it's easier to live in peace with Allah, and it's harder to stay constantly in peace with the creation of Allah. That's where you have constantly trials, Sometimes you might be on the right side, on the right path, but still, like, especially the concept of Qazimina al-Ghayz, it means like to suppress your anger, your emotions. So I think that was for me the hardest part. And now coming to your question to Quran. So it started off in the sense that in the first years, you have quite a lot of room, a free room, for your own personal studies. So it was, I didn't know how to spend my free time. So I had the love for Holy Quran. So I started doing some memorization of the Quran. So it was like 1 ruku, 2 rukus, 3 rukus. And my teacher for Holy Quran, Hafiz Murabbi Sahib, he started, if you have that much interest and free time, then do the first chapter of the Holy Quran, memorize it. So I did it after a few months. Then he said, after you did the first one, so complete this chapter Al-Baqarah. So I completed it. He said, okay, now do this next one as well. So by the time the first 3 years, I did the first 10 chapters, but without having the mindset that I'm going to memorize the Quran. It was just on a natural, like I felt I have free time, and instead of spending a time with conversations or just wasting your time, and also it gave me peace, so it gave me also the inspiration, the strength. So I came up to 10 chapters, and then I remember from 4th years onwards, you have like really high, also like intensity in your studies. So I remember one mulaqat, I went to Hazur and I said, Hazur, in the first 3 years, I started doing hifz and I've done 10 chapters already. But now the 4th year coming is up and it's going to be really tough. So should I continue with my hifz or should I stop? And that was for me something really remarkable, because the wisdom of Hazur. So Hazur listened to me and he didn't say yes, nor did he say no. And he said, reduce your sleep to 6 hours. At the first moment, just imagine the question, the context. I'm asking, should I continue his or not? And Hazur saying, reduce your sleep to 6 hours. So I was very confused. I was like, what's the link between my question and Hazur's answer? And Hazur saw it. Hazur said, if you reduce your sleep, you could do both things. It was like indirect the message. You don't have to choose yes or no. It's how you manage your time. And so this was for me the inspiration then. So after the 3rd year, that's where I made my mind up. Okay, that during Jamia career, I'm going to try to finish my hifz. So in this sense, I'm not official Hifz because I never went a Hafiz because I never went to an official Hifz institution, or I didn't have any, or I don't have any official degree. But Alhamdulillah, by the before finishing my Jamia course, I could finish the memorization of the Holy Quran, and I think that was also afterwards in my mission in Argentina, especially in learning Spanish language. I take everything back to the Hifz of Quran. It sharpens your mind. I remember like your colleagues, they need much longer to memorize certain rules or words. And it reminds me of the revelation, also the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad where it says that al-khayru kulluhu fil Quran, that all kind of good you find in the Holy Quran. So obviously you have all the spiritual benefits, but I think also for worldly terms. So in this sense, for me, I think that it has sharpened as well my memory and given in this sense also these blessings.
Oh, Jazakallah, that's very powerful, Murabbi Sahib, actually. And you just mentioned about the Holy Quran. It's something that Hazur Anwar has given us a theme this year, Holy Quran, our guiding light. And so it fits very well that, this is something we all should focus on. You shared this story of Hazur Anwar, how Hazur gave you this wisdom and how he, you went forward with the hifz. Could you share any other moments that you had with Hazur during Jamia or anything that you would like to share with us?
Yes, I remember in regards of Quran, as it's your theme. I remember in one mulakat, Hazur had a very small pocket Quran. In front of him, someone gave him as a gift. So Hazur was using a loop to read the Quran. And at that moment, I entered his office and mulakat, and Hazur was looking at it with the loop. And then Hazur saw me. Hazur said, "Look, that's a really small Quran, and you need this to read the Quran." And Hazur said, "Look at it." So Hazur showed it to me, and I was reading it. And then Hazur said also, "But remember, it's mine. I'm not going to give it to you." So for me, it was obvious. So I said, "Yeah, Gigi, Hazur, bilkul, it's yours." And I returned it to Hazur, and whilst the mulakat, Hazur said, "Acha, what else?" And then I was asking Hazur for some prayers, and suddenly Hazur left the room. So I was a bit confused. I thought maybe I said something wrong, or Hazur, maybe he got angry, or something is not correct. So Hazur went to the back room, and I could see somehow the shadow that Hazur was looking for something, and Hazur came back without saying anything. And the conversation continued, and Hazur was writing down something. I knew that. But when the mulakat finished and I was about to leave Hazur's office, Hazur said, "Yelo, this is the pocket Quran which is for you." And it was, and this Hazur also said, and I think also coming back to the his. So I think obviously I had my passion to do, but I think also it was inspiration and also Hazur's prayers. And also in this pocket Quran, Hazur wrote down, "May Allah enable you to do hifz." So in this sense, I think that's one memory for me. And also other one was just before finishing my Jamia, my last mulakat, I went back and I wanted to inform Hazur that thanks to your prayers and your constant guidance, I finished my hifz. And I remember as well, Hazur was very happy, very, like you could tell from Hazur's face that he was really happy about that. And I think also just about, there's so many incidents, where I think every MD can speak so long about, but I think sharing with you especially, I think the importance is that to clarify, obviously I feel myself really privileged and really honored. During Jamia period, I had the opportunity, the honor, maybe I had around 25 personal mulaqats as a Jamia student. And I'm aware of that their Ahmadis were much more sincere than me, and their relationship with Khilafat is much stronger than mine. But maybe they never had the opportunity to see Hazur physically. So I think that's why if you have this physical blessing, then it also brings a huge responsibility with it, that you have to convey Hazur, or you are a failure if you don't convey it into a spiritual relationship. Otherwise, just like a chilka, like it's just a artificial, it's not useful. So I remember in regards of this as well, I want to highlight this. I don't think that just because you're far away or you have just met once or you hadn't met Hazur, it doesn't mean that your relationship with Hazur is not as strong. Because our relationship with Hazur is on a spiritual dimension. So I remember I was invited to Ghana, and also they invited me to share similar anecdotes about Khilafat with the Jamia students in Ghana. And after I left, so many of them, they came, they said, Masha, very nice, those stories. And there was one young Jamia graduate from a Russian country, but he was speaking really well Urdu. So he said in Urdu in front of everyone in a group, he said, it was very nice and you're really blessed that you see Hazur with your physical eyes, referring that you Jamia guys are you so close to Hazur. But he said that we see Hazur with our spiritual eyes. We see Hazur, we have our meetings or our encounters with Hazur in our visions, in our dreams. And then he said something which really got stuck to me up till the point of today, that he said, you guys might be closer to Hazur physically, but we're going to be spiritually closer to Hazur. So he said it in a challenge, like, you know, fastabikul khairat, you should compete with each other in spiritual and good things. And he said it and he just walked off. But his words got stuck to me. It was like, yeah, that's the real challenge. So that's why I think it's very important to work on that relationship. And all of you guys were also blessed recently with Hazur's visit. So I think it's very important to always keep in mind that we shouldn't just limit our relationship with Khilafat upon worldly or upon physical blessings. The real blessing is if you become a loyal servant of Khilafat. And I think also in the sermon Hazur gave about Sayyid Taleh, that was the message. And I think that's what we should aim for, to become a Sayyid Taleh for the Khilafat. You know, and also like just linking back, maybe you have heard about Hazur's sermons about the companions of Badr. So there we see the examples of those companions. They showed great efforts and sacrifices by doing jihad bisayf, by fighting in the battle, you know, especially Khalid bin Walid. He was highlighted so much by Hazur in his sermons. So nowadays we're not going to have, or we can't serve Islam by jihad bisayf. That's the era of jihad bil kalam, jihad bin nafs. You know, in this sense, also that if you want to become a loyal servant of Hazur, if you want to become the Khalid bin Walid of Khilafat, then follow the instructions of Hazur. Try to get closer to him spiritually. And I think in this sense, and with this I will finish the question, I think you can compare it somehow, or I always, for myself, I take it in this sense, that if you want to travel to a destination, you need certain basic requirements. You know, the first requirement is that you need a map, so you know how to get to your destination. So I think this map is for us the Holy Quran. You know, we have a perfect guide. It's a perfect, let's say, application which shows us how to get to our destiny or our final destination. And then obviously you need a vehicle or a medium of transport, which is our personal relationship with God. And the best way for this are the 5 prayers. That's why Islam puts so much emphasis on the 5 prayers. And then I think for your journey, you always need someone to guide you practically. Or if you can't drive, then you need a driver, right? And I think that's Khilafat for us. It's someone who practically takes you on this journey, and you have a constant guide with you on the journey. So in this regards, I think if we are able to unite the study, the reflection upon Holy Quran with our prayers, and then under the guidance of Khilafat, I think then surely we're going to come to our destination, which is at the end, the love and pleasure of Allah Ta'ala.
That's very, very powerful. You know, I'll just fast forward. I know this, you know, in regards to Khilafat, you know, is there, before I go to the next question, is there anything that you can share where, you know, Khuddam can understand that, you know, while following Khalifatul Masih, how, and if you can share any instance where they can truly develop this love and connection with Allah Ta'ala, that when, like Hazur's mentioned, that if you become beloved of Allah Ta'ala, you would become beloved of Hazur. If there's any instance that you could share from your memory that, you know, that could help us see that, or how can we get there?
I think I can start off with about the mission of Argentina. So when I was, I just graduated from Jamia. When I did not expect it to be posted to Argentina. So my imagination didn't go beyond Europe. So I was thinking maybe Germany, somewhere in Europe. So you can imagine I was really shocked. It was honestly a shocking moment. Not just the distance that's so far away from Europe. First of all, I knew that I have to learn a new language, a completely new language. But the biggest shocking moment for me was when I asked my boss or my officer, which is Wakalat Tabshir, and asked them if they could give me any contact details of the local missionary, the local Jamaat in Argentina, so I can get some reports about the mission. And he smiled, he said, there's no Jamaat in Argentina, there's no one. So you have to start the mission there. So you can imagine I was just 26, 27 without any practical experience in the field. So for me, it was like you're having Mount Everest in front of you, you know, and they're telling you now climb up. And that was somehow my sentiments or my feelings at that moment. And with the same feelings, I went into the Mulaka just before leaving UK and heading towards Argentina. And I remember I expressed, and as I think Hazur also could see, how nervous I was and how worried I was about the mission, where to start and how I'm going to establish a Jamaat. I mean, just imagine you're traveling as a tourist to Argentina. Just as a tourist, you would be maybe worried, you know, because of your own security, where to go, where not to go, what to do. And just imagine now your task is to establish a divine community in a new country where you don't know anyone, you don't have any context, you don't know about their culture, and there's no one to receive you. So I just arrived at the airport and I was so happy someone is receiving me, taking me, bringing me, you know, so you can trust on someone. I remember in Argentina, I arrived and it was just with Google Translator trying to show to the driver, the taxi driver, to take me to a hotel, and I had to stay there. And it was so hard. It was so challenging. And it was constantly for the first 6 months it happened. Sometimes I used to get lost and I didn't even remember the names of the station or the hotel. So I would just take all the pictures and showing them like, this is somewhere the building I want to go. But I think which gave me the strength and the inspiration was Hazur's prayers, but also his blessed words. Just before leaving, Hazur said that if you want to teach someone how to swim, you just throw him into the cold water and the person then starts somehow learning how to swim. And Hazur smiled and said, I have done the same with you. So don't worry. And Hazur, in this sense, to give me the confidence and as well like the inner peace, he said, I know Allah Ta'ala will teach you how to swim. And that's why for me, like keeping this statement and this blessed words and prayers of Hazur, it was like I came out of the Mulaka and it was like, let's go. I want to conquer Argentina. You know, it was like completely changed my motivation level. And I think that's what gave me the strength, the motivation, that I knew that if I put even a small effort, Hazur's prayers and Allah Ta'ala's invisible hand from behind is going to open up the door. And that's what literally happened. So it's not that I went with a magic strategy how to establish a Jamaat in Argentina. Honestly, not. I didn't have any plan. I knew obviously the basic things, what we are prepared for. But what I have experienced in the last few years, and I think that's important because I don't consider myself any holy or saint or berserk or pious person. I think I'm just an ordinary Ahmadi like all of us who's trying his best to become a better Ahmadi. So I don't give the credit to my own skills or person. I think it's honestly because of Hazur's prayers. And honestly, if you do something with the pure intention to serve God, that honestly you can feel and you will testify that God will open up and remove all the hurdles. That's why it's said in a hadith, Man kana lillah, kana Allahu lahu, who becomes or puts all his person for God and God becomes his. In this sense, not servant, but God is then who takes care of him. So that's what I've experienced in Argentina in the last 5-6 years, that it's somehow, it's a chain of doors opening. You go to an event and at that event, you may meet up someone who 2 years afterwards is going to open up another door for you, you know, and that's like constantly, even my visit with you here, I met someone in the Congress in Argentina and they asked me to speak about a really scientific topic because in Argentina, debate was going on how to treat elderly people. And they came and they asked me, they said, we couldn't find any imam. We have like Christians, we have Jewish representatives, rabbis, but we don't have any imam, and we need to now someone to speak scientifically about this topic. And I was scared. I was like, how am I gonna, my Spanish and also like the legal requirements and the context. So I was doing somehow istikhara, what should I do? Yes, no. I was also thinking, I don't want to misrepresent Islam. But then somehow I remember at another occasion, Azuz said and told me the instruction that you should never be afraid of representing Islam. Rather, you should feel proud and always go and simply speak about the beauty of Islam. And obviously, we have to do our research. I'm not saying just to go without. But Azuz, the guidance was that within Islamic teachings, you're going to find solutions and answers to any issue, to any aspect of life or social debate. So I went to this event, I spoke, and there I went some other people who invited me to the Argentinian, another event at the Congress. There I met someone who invited me to the Chilean Congress. And from there I ended up finally here. So it's like a constant where you can see that Allah Ta'ala is opening up the doors and taking or giving the opportunity to serve the Jamaat.
Jazakallah Murabbi for sharing that. You know, just to, I know a part of in your Argentina, while you have been in Argentina, we also saw that, you know, you had an opportunity to meet with the Pope. And if you could just relate that experience, you know, how did that come about, and when did you, you know, how did that meeting go, or what did you get out of it when you met him? And also, if we can relate that, you know, spiritual presence compared to whenever you've ever had an audience with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, what was that, you know, what is the comparison?
So obviously the Pope is the most prominent and most important Christian leader. So when I was invited for a private audience, obviously I felt nervous. Nervous in the sense that not because of the prestige or the robe of the Pope, but because of the responsibility that I will represent the Jamaat and Hazur. So I had some sleepless nights before, definitely, I'm going to confess. But it was more like thinking about what's the best manner to represent Hazur in a dignified, or the manner or the requirements. But I remember that obviously before going also mentioned to Hazur, I asked him for his prayers. But I think when I went, with all the due respect, the Pope was very kind. So they had told us that he's going to receive us for 10 minutes. And by just the fact, you can imagine that the audience lasted for around 40 minutes. So we had a really personal, really dynamic, really open conversation. But what I felt before entering his room, that they receive you and they just make you to wait in a big hall. So you're waiting in a hall, and there, it's not a simple mosque, a beautiful or a simple mosque like this. You find everywhere like arts or calligraphy of like old arts, history of the Vatican, decorated with gold, you know, and then you find that chair at the front, which is higher put up. So it's a seat for the Pope. No one can sit there. So you have common chairs, and then there's a seat for the Pope, but higher up. And then they take you from this room to another room. There are further like historic architecture, gallery, arts of the Vatican. So I felt like constantly in my heart that they are trying to impose the, you know, the majesty of the Vatican, of the Pope, by virtue or by worldly or by artificial means on anyone. Yeah. And the same when you enter then Pope's office. So, but as I said, he received us very well. We started the conversation. So I introduced myself in Spanish, and he immediately detected my Argentinian accent. So he said, are you Argentinian? I said, no. So he said, but why do you speak like us? So I told him my background, and we spoke on a personal note. And then I had studied his book, which he had written about interfaith harmony. So I started highlighting some of his points from this book. I think also it's important to sharing with you in this sense, if you get the opportunity to do tabligh, that in this sense, I thought on my mind was that if I go now and straight speak to him that Islam teaches this, he might not take it or he might not feel comfortable. It might sound that I'm trying to preach to him. So what I rather prefer to do is that I took his points out of his books, which were completely agreeing with Islamic teachings, and I linked them up. So I said, Pope, you wrote in your book this, and our Caliph has said the same, or Islam says the same. You said that, and the Holy Quran says also the same. So on this side, he was like really pleased that a Muslim Imam had read thoroughly his book. And then he was also curious, who is that Caliph, who you're constantly comparing me in this sense, in those statements. So then I introduced him Hazur, showed Hazur's book. Hazur had written a personal letter for the Pope. So I presented to him. He acknowledged, he was really pleased about that. And then also we had some exchange he also gave us or gave me a medal of the Vatican for my efforts in Argentina. And he dedicated also a book, or his book, to Hazur then. He said as well, to His Holiness Mirza Masroor Ahmad, with brotherly affection, Francis. And in this sense, we spoke about a range of topics, also personal conversation. But to just the second part of your question, definitely what I could feel, he's a really pious man, or he was really kind to me, and also like really humble. But obviously, I think we are so blessed to have Khalifa, to be members of this community. That if you compare Hazur's lifestyle, also his office, is such a simple office. Hazur doesn't need these artificial or worldly means to impress people or to impress his own members, because he has just the spiritual light, the nur with him. So the same happened with me. The same rabbi, we went to see first Hazur and then the Pope. And the rabbi, he became so emotional while speaking to Hazur. At some point, he started crying. And he said, Hazur, I had read in my Jewish traditions, there's a really famous rabbi, and he spoke really well about Islam. And he said, speaking to you, I can 100% testify that's the same Islam which he spoke, that was Islam I'm feeling with you. And he said, I've met so many rabbis, but I never had the same spiritual impact which I have now meeting you. And he becomes so emotional, and he said, Hazur, I can testify, my heart gives testimony that you are a man of God. And Hazur was just so humble as a Rikshashan. Hazur just changed the topic. So the same, I was looking, how is he gonna finish up the meeting with the Pope? Is he gonna say something similar, or how is he gonna round up? But he didn't say anything like this. He was kind to him. He said thanks for everything. But I think in this sense, even external people, they can feel it, and that's, I think, our blessing. But also, it is said, as I said before, it requires also the due responsibility. So the responsibility is also then become Hazur's helpers in this mission. I remember just, and I don't want to take it too long, this will be the last, I think. I know the dinner is also waiting. I asked once Hazur, because I had in mind, it was one of my last mulaqas during Jamia, and I had in mind that exactly the point that there's so many Ahmadis around the world, and they have so much love and dedication for Khalafat, but never the opportunity to see him. So Hazur, I had the opportunity to enter 25 times in a stage of paradise, like Jannat on this earth, being with Hazur. So I said, Hazur, how can I return now this huge favor to you? Like, you have so many times changed my life and given me new life, new spiritual life. So what can I do for you? And I know it sounds silly. What does Hazur need from me? But it was from my side. I want to do something for Hazur. And Hazur said, pray for me. I need prayers. And analyzing, Hazur is God's appointed. He's the one who is closest to God. So it shows Hazur's humbleness. But also on the other side, it shows that if we really love Hazur and we want to serve him, obviously we have to follow his instructions, but also pray for Hazur's health, for his mission. So with this, I think, I don't know if you have further questions. I'm just thinking about Khudams. They must be really hungry.
So no, Jazakallah Murabbi Sahib. So what we will do now is we'll wrap up like part of the session here, and then we'll go downstairs for dinner, and also have an opportunity for Khudam to ask any questions while we eat, because obviously they might be eager. If someone has any questions, they can ask. Before we wrap up, obviously, Murabbi Sahib, first I want to just convey Sadat Saab's message that, Sadat Saab was apologizing, he couldn't make it here, but he was saying his salam to you as well. Sadr Majlis Ghulam India. And we will not, when we have a small just gift on behalf of the Majlis from Sadat Saab, and which I'll request if Naib Sadat Saab can give to Murabbi Sahib. And I know Murabbi Sahib, you're a soccer fan, so we'll see if the gift is very fitting or if you like it. But this is something, just a small token from the Majlis. And if you see, it has maybe an Argent. So let's see what Murabbi Sahib, we had something that again, Argentina, USA soccer scarf. I think you can wear that when you play soccer. Let's see. What is that? Argentina? Okay. And then we have few just I think we have our MK gears. Yeah. But I just wanted to share it, and there's your USA soccer scarf that you can wrap it up. Courtesy to Motum Samukami for helping us get this gift.
It's like looking at it, like, how they present the clubs of the football players.
So, Jazakumullah. What we will do now is we'll do dua, and I'll request Murabbi Sahib to please lead us in silent prayer to end this session. We'll have a group photo, and then we'll go downstairs. There's enough food, and I know, and then the plan is that we will be heading to the soccer field. Murabbi Sahib is a good soccer player, and would like to play soccer with you, all of you, whoever wants to join. So afterwards, we'll have some soccer as well. All right, so we'll do dua now, Murabbi Sahib.
After the eating, they
Yes, they're ready for some exercise.
दुआ कर लें. Allahumma ameen.
So just take a quick group photo here, and so basically, if a couple of guys can move their table, we have some chairs.